It was the jazz age, the 1920s, an era when America danced to the sound of freedom. The Great War was over, Prohibition was in full swing, and the country was swept up in the rhythm of jazz, romance, and reinvention. But beneath the glittering surface of the roaring 20s, the same old sins still lingered: jealousy, betrayal, and the human thirst for passion and revenge. And nowhere did those forces collide more scandalously than in a quiet corner of New Jersey, beneath a crabapple tree, on a September night in 1922. Before we uncover one of America's most sensational jazz age crimes, make sure to subscribe to Crimes Through Time, and if you love untangling history's darkest mysteries, hit that like button. It helps others discover these forgotten stories from the shadows of the past. Now, let's step back to the fall of 1922 to the Hall Mills mystery. New Brunswick, New Jersey was the kind of place where everyone knew everyone, a small town with big ambitions. It was home to Rutgers University, a few quiet neighborhoods, and St. John the Evangelist Episcopal Church, a modest but proud house of worship led by Reverend Edward Wheeler. Hall was respected, cultured, and charismatic, a man with a calm voice and refined manners. He had a genteel presence that drew people to him, especially women, and among his admirers was one woman who adored him far beyond the boundaries of propriety: Eleanor Reinhardt Mills. Eleanor was 34, a vivacious choir singer married to James Mills, the church's janitor. She had an expressive face, a melodic voice, and an unguarded enthusiasm that stood out in the otherwise conservative parish. To the townspeople, she was warm or lively, perhaps too lively. To Edward Hall, she was intoxicating. Their secret affair began with small gestures, a glance across the choir stalls, a shared laugh after service, the exchange of handwritten letters tucked between hymn books. In time, those notes became longer, more intimate declarations of love and longing written in elegant penmanship, filled with phrases like "my own darling" and "my true heart." The affair might have remained a secret if not for Hall's wife, Frances Stevens Hall. Frances came from one of New Jersey's most powerful families, wealthy, proud, and fiercely protective of her social standing. She was the opposite of her husband in temperament: practical, cold, and unbending. She also had two loyal brothers, Henry and Willie Stevens, who shared her sense of family honor. By the late summer of 1922, gossip was circulating through the congregation. People whispered that the Reverend and the choir singer were spending far too much time together. Letters were seen, meetings were suspected, and Frances Hall, though outwardly composed, was seething. Then, on the night of September 14, 1922, Edward Hall told his wife he was stepping out to visit a parishioner. Eleanor Mills told her teenage daughter she was going for a walk to meet the Reverend. Neither would ever return alive. 2 days later, a couple walking near an abandoned farm off DeRuss's Lane stumbled upon something horrific. Beneath a crabapple tree lay two bodies, a man and a woman, side by side, their heads close together, their bodies neatly arranged. Edward Hall had been shot once in the head. Eleanor Mills had been shot 3 times, once through the face, once through the chest, and once through the neck. Her throat had been slit, and her tongue had been cut out. The scene was strangely staged. Edward's calling card was placed neatly on his shoe. Eleanor's love letters were torn and scattered around her body like fallen leaves. It looked less like a random killing and more like a cruel performance, a deliberate exposure of sin and punishment. When police arrived, they were stunned not only by the brutality, but by the atmosphere. People were already gathering: reporters, curiosity seekers, and even souvenir hunters. The crime scene became a public spectacle before proper evidence could be secured. By the time investigators began their work, footprints were trampled, clues were lost, and the entire scene was compromised. Still, one thing was certain: this was no robbery. The motive was personal, emotional, and intimate. The first suspect, naturally, was Frances Hall. She had motive: jealousy, humiliation, and rage. But the Hall family's wealth and influence complicated matters. Frances claimed she'd been at home all night, reading in bed. Her brothers, Henry and Willie, said the same. None of them admitted to knowing about the affair, though everyone in town did. Then came the stories. Witnesses swore they saw strange figures moving near the Hall property that night. Others claimed to have heard gunshots. And then there was the account that changed everything, that of a local woman named Jane Gibson, known around town as the Pig Woman. Jane Gibson lived on a small pig farm near the murder site. She was eccentric, talkative, and known for her vivid imagination, but she became the prosecution's star witness. Gibson claimed she had been awakened by barking dogs on the night of the murders. She went out to investigate, and from a distance, saw 4 people near the crabapple tree, 2 men and 2 women. She said she heard a man's voice cry out, "Oh Henry," before gunshots echoed in the night. To her, one of the women resembled Mrs. Frances Hall. Her testimony set the town ablaze. Newspapers dubbed it the crabapple tree murder. And soon, the case became front-page news across the country. It was everything America's roaring 1,920 seconds appetite for scandal demanded: infidelity, blood, high society, and a touch of mystery. But without physical evidence, the case faltered. Police bungled the investigation from the start, losing shell casings, mishandling bodies, and failing to take fingerprints. The autopsy, conducted in poor conditions, yielded few clues. Even the letters, which might have proven the lovers' relationship conclusively, were dismissed as circumstantial. The press, meanwhile, turned the entire saga into theatre. Reporters competed for headlines, cartoonists mocked the suspects, and society columnists dissected every detail of Frances Hall's dresses, her veiled expressions, and her cold composure. By 1926, 4 years after the murders, pressure mounted on prosecutors to do something. A new grand jury was convened. Frances Hall, along with her brothers Henry and Willie Stevens, were finally indicted for the murders. The trial was a sensation, one of the biggest of the decade. The courtroom overflowed with journalists, socialites, and spectators. Flashbulbs went off like fireworks as Frances entered, dressed in black, with her pearl necklace glinting under the lights. She carried herself with aristocratic poise, her face unreadable. The prosecution's star witness, Jane Gibson, the pig woman, was brought in on a stretcher, gravely ill but determined to testify. She told her story once again, her voice trembling, describing the figures she had seen, the voices she had heard. "I saw Mrs. Hall," she insisted, "and I heard her cry out." But under cross-examination, her testimony crumbled. Defense attorneys painted her as unreliable, prone to exaggeration, and motivated by fame. They suggested she'd been influenced by police, her memory clouded by time and imagination. The defense, meanwhile, leaned on class and credibility. Frances Hall was portrayed as a refined woman, too dignified, too fragile to commit such a savage crime. Her brothers, both wealthy and eccentric, were presented as harmless gentlemen, incapable of violence. After weeks of testimony and headlines, the jury deliberated for just 5 hours. On December 3, 1926, Frances Hall and her brothers were acquitted of all charges. The verdict was met with gasps and applause. Some called it justice, others called it privilege. But everyone knew one thing: the true killers of Edward Hall and Eleanor Mills had gotten away with murder. In the aftermath, the Hall Mills mystery faded but never died. For decades, it remained one of America's great unsolved crimes, a mirror reflecting the double standards of its age. The newspapers that once feasted on the story eventually turned it into legend. Books, plays, and even documentaries have since revisited the case, each trying to answer the same haunting question: who pulled the trigger that night beneath the crabapple tree? Some believe Frances Hall orchestrated the murders out of jealous rage. Others think her brothers, particularly the reclusive Henry Stevens, carried out the act to protect the family name. There are even theories of hired killers or shadowy church rivals. But without evidence, all remain speculation. Eleanor's husband, James Mills, lived out the rest of his life quietly, haunted by what he saw when he identified her body, the woman he loved, slain and humiliated. Frances Hall withdrew into seclusion, dying in 1942, never having spoken publicly about that night again. As for Jane Gibson, the pig woman, she faded into obscurity, still insisting she told the truth. Her story remains one of the few glimpses we have into that night's terrible mystery, a flickering light in the fog of a scandal that defined an era. The Hall Mills mystery is more than just an unsolved crime. It's a time capsule of the 1920s, when appearances mattered more than truth, when class could protect the guilty, and when love, in its most forbidden form, could ignite tragedy. Even now, a century later, the image of that quiet New Jersey orchard still lingers, the crabapple tree swaying gently in the night breeze, 2 lovers lying forever side by side, silenced by someone who thought they could bury the truth. But as time has shown, the past never truly stays buried. Thank you for watching Crimes Through Time. If this story fascinated you, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more journeys into history's darkest mysteries. And tell us in the comments, who do you think really killed Reverend Hall and Eleanor Mills? Was it jealousy, revenge, or something far deeper hidden behind wealth and respectability? We'll see you in the next episode. Until then, stay curious, stay safe,